Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. This may be kind of like a rambling video, though. There'll probably be some useful stuff interspaced with just talking about lock sport and hobbies and stuff in general. Um, One of the things you run into when you start picking is when you very first start into lock picking, usually, uh, unless it's a job, you start off with the easier stuff or the easier locks, and you get maybe a false sense of ability. You think, "Wow, these these master locks are not as tough as they appear to be, and they're pretty easy to get into." And if you just stick around with those master lock and lesser, like Chinesiums and stuff, and that's all you run into, you may start thinking that you can get into any kind of lock. Well, when you start running into security pins and different locks with higher security and with more than 4 pins and stuff like that, then it really becomes a test. And a lot of times, for some people, that's it. They thought it was interesting, but that's it. That it's not interesting enough for them to pursue it. Some people make it past that and start getting into the security pin ones, and then they really start, becoming pickers and stuff and understanding about locks, and there's kind of like the turning point whether or not they're really going to get into this. They're either going to do this as a job or a business or something like that, or a requirement, or they're going to do it because they like to do it. And if they like to do it, with me, with hobbies, the way I get into things is if I like it, I'll get really into it. I mean, for example, like guns and stuff. I've always liked guns, and I was in the military, and there was a long time, decades, when I carried a gun every day, and I shot in competition, both rifle, pistol, became an instructor, a range officer. I reloaded my own ammunition. I cast my own bullets. I mean, I just got completely into it. And this was for a long time. Now, I still like guns. I just um, I don't like them like I like locks. If I was thinking about that today, I said, if somebody came up to me and said, two people came up to me. One person said, "Hey, I've got some guns. Let's go out and shoot them." And another person came up to me and said, "Hey, I found this lock. Let's go out and pick it." I'd go for the lock, man. I mean, I like guns, but I've been there, done that, but locks. No, new guns evolve, just like locks. New locks come out along, and new methods of picking and everything. But I don't know. With guns, it was also a job with me for a while because I was working in a rifle and pistol range for many years. So it was something I loved to do. It was a great job, but it also turned a hobby, into a job too. So sometimes you had to do stuff when you didn't want to do stuff that normally you like to do, and that's the way lock picking is, kind of like that. But what I'm going to do is finish up this challenge lock, and I wanted to talk about the slump that you run into, because new pickers will, some of them, if they get up on like YouTube and stuff, they're new, they don't have a lot of subscribers, and they're unsure of their abilities, so they're not even sure if anybody really wants to watch them pick an easy lock like a master lock. Well, to me, when I'm watching them, I know how that is, that first lock, and I think, you know, you, if anything you can do is like give them encouragement, I mean, just because they're gonna doubt themselves or something. They're gonna say, "Well, this was, you know, really difficult for me to pick, and I've seen other pickers and they get it real easy." It's not about other pickers. It's about them and their challenge, And here's a person that's not even sure they should put this video up, and they're not sure anybody wants to watch them. And I really like to encourage them if I can and say, "Hey, that was great picking." I mean, I remember the first time I picked my master lock number 3 opened, if I could have had a video there of my excitement level, it would have been off the scale. You know, it was like, whoa, this is amazing. This is so much fun. So that's what I want to try to encourage. You know, is people that are picking. If you run into a slump where you can pick these open pretty easy, you know, but you're having problems with, you know, an Avis or something, you know, that's a little bit more difficult, or you've bit off more than you can chew. You know, you grab a hold of a lock that anybody would have a difficulty picking, and you're thinking, well, I should be able to get it. Well, it doesn't work that way. You know, it's not magic. You basically you have to have some of the stuff can't be from just watching videos. It has to be you actually have to get in there and understand what tension means, you know, on the wrench and the spring pressure and all of that stuff. Some of that stuff just can't be conveyed on video completely. Um, but what I do when I run into, especially there was a really big slump, and it'll come. That's what I say. It'll be like waves. There'll be waves where you're just picking everything that comes along, difficult, easy, no problem, and you start getting that feeling that, hey, you know, maybe I got some skill, and then you run into a challenge lock on a quick set or something like that. It's a 5-pin lock, you know, and you've been picking best locks and stuff like that with 7 pins and cross locks, you know, with like 16 pins or whatever they're labeled, you know. You name it, pins, you can pick them. And then here comes a little 5-pin and boom, you can't get that sucker. And you think, well, maybe it's just, you know, I'm tired today or I'm in a slump or something. And you go to pick another challenge lock. And you see the pattern here. You've gone from a difficult lock to another difficult lock. You're not going back easy because you know you can pick locks, but you want to make sure that you still have the ability, and you can't get that one either. If you run into a bunch of locks like that, you're going to be frustrated, you know. I mean, because a lot of them, I give a lot of effort to every lock that I'm picking. I don't just sit there and try a couple of seconds and say, well, I haven't got it, you know. I mean, I really pick on them for a while, and usually on camera, and usually talking. So if I don't get them, it's kind of psychotic what you're doing, you know. You're like talking to yourself. You're talking to no one really. I mean, because if you delete it, and if anybody would walk by, if they didn't know a camera was going on, I'm on the second floor, so if anybody walked by, it would be amazing anyway to see someone walk by and 20 feet, 10 feet off the ground, or 15, whatever. But I digress. See, I told you that was going to happen. Anyway, what I do when I run into those slumps is, if I'm really doubting my picking ability, I'll go down to something that's like one step down from what I'm doing, you know, like, all right, it still has security pins, but it's commercial. So they're not throwing everything at you. They're not doing pin and pin or whatever else magic is inside that challenge lock. This is what they're selling. This is what you would run into out in the street. This other challenge locks are designed to be a challenge, you know. I mean, that's the nature of the game, is you take a standard lock and you try to make it challenging to get into it, not easy. And you've succeeded basically if the amount of time it takes you as your picker, as the challenge lock maker, the amount of time that it takes you to pick that lock increases, or the amount of feedback or whatever fools you or tricks you, basically makes it more difficult. If that delays the amount of time it takes you to open it by any significant amount, boom, you've succeeded. You still succeeded in making a challenge lock if you put threads in here and everything else, and it picks just as fast as a standard lock without that. I mean, you've bound to have given it some feedback, some clicks and stuff. So I mean, you just by threading the chambers or threading the pins or anything like that, you're bound to have made it a little bit more difficult. And I want to encourage people to try to make challenge locks, because I won't name any names, but there are some pickers that doubt their abilities after a while, and they wonder if they have anything, whether it's even worthwhile to stay in lock sport because they can't pick anything, and they're always getting defeated by locks. No, it's not. It's not always about that. It's about the person too. After a while, you become kind of like video friends with people that pick locks, especially people that comment and talk while they're picking and stuff. You get to know them, their pets and stuff like that. So if they're going to go away, it's like you're missing a friend, somebody's going to go away. And to me, on lock sport, you never know with people. Some people will sit there and have a video channel and look like they're really into it. And the very next day, they've got competitions and they've got stuff and they got stuff coming in. And then you don't hear from them again. I mean, they're vanished. Some people come back. I understand that life happens, and a lot of times picking is just a hobby. And, people give time to it that they can, but they have children or family or they're relocated or, who knows? Things like that happen. But I just want to try to encourage people that run into the slump that try some other aspect that you still like you're bound to like more than just the lock itself. You might like picks, so try your hand at making picks. It doesn't have to be elaborate. You look at all these other handles that are beautiful and everything, they're great. I mean, they're fantastic. I'd like to be able to, reach that skill level. That's another thing that I want to save that I can expand on is like, I've made picks, but they're more functional. They're designed to do, I care about what it does in the lock more than what it looks like. Now, I like both. You can have both. You can have something that is functional and beautiful, but you can get to the upper limit of it where the pick is so expensive or so irreplaceable that you don't even want to get a slight curve on it or a scratch. It's like, a beautiful car, that you always got buffed up and painted out. And then it becomes, it's a work of art, but it never becomes a pick. You never get to use it, and you spent all that money, which, money may not mean anything to you or anything. Or the pick itself may be that beautiful. I understand that, but still. I tend to go more functional, and with functional handles, some expedients you can do are pieces of plastic. I mean, this is a printed handle, which is even better if you've got a 3D printer, but you can take any piece of plastic that's about this thickness, or you can use popsicle stick handles, or you can even take the windshield wiper insert that we were using for making the pick, break off a couple of pieces on either side and get some, if you want to be fancy, the heat shrink tubing that has adhesive on the inside. That not only seals it, but makes it a little bit thicker in the handle. I think I've got one right here. Yeah. This is a pick I made. It's called a beginner's Bogota because I wanted to make this junction stronger as a beginner, and this is also good on master locks, but even it has been bent a little bit. But yeah, that's what I did with this handle here. I think I used that adhesive on this. I don't remember the size, the dimension on the heat shrink tubing. It's pretty cheap, easy to get. So there you go. I don't want to ramble on forever. I already gone 14 minutes and I haven't picked on anything, but I did want to say I picked these two guys open. This guy was pretty quick. I just was wiggling around with him, and then finally I just zipped my pick out. I had just like a short hook in there, I think the Tron, and it popped open. And this one took a little bit more, and when I picked it, I got it to do a 45 degree and the shackle wouldn't come open. So I dropped my tension wrench out, but it still stayed at 45 degrees, so I quickly put it back in there and maintained pressure. And I came in here with my little hammer and banged up on the shackle, and that's all it was stuck. So then I shot some lube in there. But this one was a little bit harder to pick, that Willisco. And this one was easy. Oh, Also, I found, now there's a lot of guard security, which I believe is different. I believe these are made in Hong Kong. It doesn't say it on the shackle. It says hardened, but I have another one of these that says guard cylinder padlock, smaller, coming in, that's new old stock, and the box says Hong Kong on it. So now the guard security brand, I think I've got one of those lying around here somewhere. That, I believe, is made in China. And the only reason is tracking down who made what on some of these is really difficult, especially when they're antique and foreign, because there aren't a whole lot of records on this, and the only way really I've been able to get any success in this case is looking at other eBay listings, and I just ran across. I was just doing a search for guard padlock. I left out cylinder and all that other crap because there weren't that many, and that's where I believe this one's made. It's Hong Kong, but it's a cool lock. And then it'll have his little buddy with him. But yeah, if you run into a slump, give yourself some time. Don't beat yourself up. Don't judge yourself by other standards. Which is, you've seen somebody else got into this in 2 minutes, and you've been 2 days on it and you can't get it. Well, you might have a lock that's defective. You might not be using the right tension wrench. You might not be using the right pick. You may be using a tension wrench you think that's properly, but you're actually binding the core, and it's not allowed to turn at all. But you think it is, and you think all pins are not acting that way or whatever. There could be a lot of things. What I do also is I go and I look and watch and comment on other picking videos a lot of times, because sometimes you can look for what you're looking for and see a video of it. And other times you can just find what's like throwaway information. Somebody will be picking and they'll just make a random comment, and it'll be exactly what you needed to figure out, which is, oh yeah, that's what I needed to do for that. And it'll get you into the lock. So what I'm saying is, don't be discouraged. We're a community here, we like to see people even try to get into locks, even if you can't get in. That's what I like about Lockmania's Naughty Bucket Friday. I haven't done one yet, but I'm going to still give it that same hashtag. I've got some locks. I just didn't have time Friday after I got off work to do one of those, or even to try one. But I will participate in that because it's pretty cool. You can get comments that might help you, pick that lock open, or encouragement if you need it, Or someone will say, hey, I'll take that lock, if you don't want to pick on it anymore, I'll take it. I'll try it. So yeah, you can get it off your hands if it's still in there. And that kind of encourages you to, hey, if I want to get this lock, I better do it now because I got to send it off. So there you go. I'm still rambling on too much. I told you this was going to be a rambling one. But I had fun. Now that I can purchase, like random locks and stuff, each one is a new challenge, because Waterbury, that kind of sounds like it's, a British lock or something. You never know what it says, and all it says is solid brass pin tumbler. And then it says Hong Kong on the top of it. So I guess all the components down here are brass, but I know this isn't, because brass doesn't get that kind of rust on it. So the shackle is probably chromed steel or something. It's supposedly hardened. And this Walesko, they make another lock called a Wally lock, but they're a little bit more expensive, the ones I've seen. And I always like that they have the name of the country that's on it. That's pretty cool. You never know with Avis. It could say, like this one says WF and it's a 6540. Um, this I wanted to say also the 65s are not as easy. It seems like a lot of these different series, they're not as easy to get here in the United States, but they're prevalent. Just like Master Lock. Avis does this too. Master Lock does it also. They market things for like the European market or the Australian market, and they're only available there. So if you do see them available, yeah, they got a low initial price or whatever, or a mediocre price, but then there's a huge shipping cost on it because it's coming from thousands of miles away, which is weird to me. All right, they buy locks in America. Okay, maybe not everyone buys the 65 series, but some people like it for whatever reason. Okay, they don't like the 55 series as much, which we can get here like crazy. They don't like those as much as they like the 65. Why not make them all available? Come on, man, it's crazy. But yeah, that's the thing with locks, and like Lockwoods, they're excellent locks. Why don't they have a distributorship here in the United States? I just don't understand the lack of marketing skills or opportunities. I know maybe they had a bad history because I believe they had a plant here in the United States at one time in their history. I looked it up at one point, but anywho, enough rambling on for right now. I just wanted to give that kind of like roundabout, weird kind of encouragement to people that run into the picking slump, that there's other things that you can do that are still lock related that will eventually get you back. You can't concentrate too much on the one that's giving you a problem or whatever. Go pick something else that may still be a challenge that you may get, that may give you some more encouragement to eventually try it. I mean, there are some locks that are stock locks that you're not going to get open for one reason or another. Maybe the shackle is frozen down there, and no matter what you do to the core, it's not going to open. That happens with like ball bearing mechanism. The core does have to turn for those ball bearings to retract. Now, if those ball bearings are in there and rusted or whatever and stuck, they're not going to retract. Gravity's not going to help them. And you can't get a thing to wiggle it in there because the shackle's in the way. It's locked. You can't get it. So the only thing you can do is like pound on it, soak it in solvent or whatever, Hope you can break that free. But you may never get it done. You may think, oh, I'm in a deep spool. No, you've picked the lock open. You just have not opened the lock because the shackle's in your way. And that's when you may have to destroy a lock if you want to get into it. But if you wanted to keep it as a collector or whatever, then that's one that you're just not going to get into. Not at this time. Maybe in the future they will invent some kind of like nano robots that go in there and eat away the rust or push against the little screw jack ones that get in there, and little hydraulics or whatever, and they push the shackle in for you. Until that time, it's going to have to sit on your shelf. So there you go. I spent 25 minutes almost rambling, and I think it's time to end this one.